We're back. Positive week
I
for
hate
UConn football.
The production values just make me feel so inadequate. You got to do it to me every time.
Let's give you a little intro.
I feel like 1 week you're just going to come out with something totally explosive.
I got something ready for you, primed up.
I'm sure you do.
Coming soon. Great. Yeah, you want me to launch into it, or do you want to talk more about my production values?
I lost my voice from cheering so hard. No, I your production values are second to none, and it just makes me jealous. That's all. I'm very insecure.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You'll survive. You'll survive. Yeah. We have the voice of UConn football coming on, which is when I played, when you played. He was the guy you listened to every single time, and any clip you ever see on UConn football, his voice is always over that clip, and he understands UConn football better than anybody. He's been around. I don't know if he wants to say been around longer than anybody, but he's been around for UConn football longer than anybody.
I want it noted that I'm the one who got him on the show. Just so you know.
You got him on the show.
Yes, I want to know.
You deserve the credit for that.
Yes, I want it noted. Yes, I contributed.
I know you're trying to pile up the credit here, so we pile it up. Without further ado, let's bring on Joe D'Ambrosio. Joe, what's going on?
What's up, fellas? How are you?
Oh, it's great to see your face, Joe.
Good to see you, boys.
Dave, you don't know this, but I interned for the radio station that Joe was at over the summer of my junior going into my senior year. So I was lucky enough to spend some time down there. And he was nice enough to throw me a few bones for interviews after games, only I would say the wrong radio station. We were on 1080, and I worked for 96.5. So I'd say, yeah, live from 96.5 TIC. He's like, no, we're on 1080.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
A slight mistake, Cully.
My bad on that one.
That's okay. We mistakes,
My bad on that one.
Yep. WTIC, man. I remember that back back in the day when I was roommates with my first 3 years, I was roommates with Zeke Rogers. You probably remember him. And his father used to listen to the game, listen to your broadcast of the game while the game was going on. And my father would be sitting next to him, and he would be relaying what was happening. My father was like, I'm watching the game.
No, my dad did
I'm watching it live.
Zeke Rogers, a very underrated quarterback in his time at UConn. Absolutely. Yep. I don't think he got enough credit for being as good as he was.
Dave, but he was also big during he was the starter under Tom Jackson, and then when Skip came in, I think went more to Brandon Bailey than eventually Shane Stafford became the guy who ended up being my roommate after that. So I was more roommates with quarterbacks for most of my college career.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
you get a lot of people who would tell you Shane was among the top 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
He was awesome. He just had a knack for making plays at the right time.
He was a gunslinger.
Yep.
Yeah, he could very, very special.
And he was so accurate. So accurate. That was what I always thought. Like, I used to always say, you're always the the top 5 guy every year in passing efficiency. That was always his in the NCAA, he would always be up there in the passing efficiency ratings. But yeah, let's talk a little bit what UConn is doing. So we're in a situation where we just had another big win. I think in the process of overcoming last year, this was another big win to get us back on track to really keep pushing forward. And I think the nice thing about this game is it gave us a chance to, much like Merrimack did, to kind of get right back on track after playing Duke, and which was a close game, which they were down. They were down big, fought back, ended up losing a close game. Here, they just came really right out and dominated. What were some of your thoughts from that game?
Well, I think first off, I think they played well at Duke, but I would also caution people: Duke's not Clemson or when they were good Florida State.
Correct.
Duke is a mid to lower ACC team, but still Power 4. We'll see another one of those when Wake Forest comes to the rent. But I thought they did what they had to do. I think in a game like Saturday, guys, the one thing you don't want to do is complicate things. And Jim Mora thought, and Gordy Samus, the offensive coordinator, thought the best way to go would be keep the ball on the ground. Now, Cam Edwards saw limited duty. Victor Rosa didn't even play, and the other two kids were great. The offensive line, as you would expect in a situation like that, picked the other team apart. The two kids who played running back both got over 100 yards. That's like from the Wilbur Gilliard, Eddie Long days, or Jordan Todman and
Robinson.
Yeah. So I mean, the defense never gave him a sniff. So I mean, it was it UConn's best opponent. No, at this stage of the season, does it matter? No, not really, because you want to build your confidence up, and it's the start of a huge stretch. I mean, nobody has 6 straight home games in college football. Nobody except
it's unheard of. Yeah,
except UConn. Well, because in a conference, they're never gonna do that with a team. You're always going to go home away or 2 home and 2 away. So I think from the standpoint of getting back on track, as you said, and getting their confidence back, it was a perfect game for them.
Would you put Maryland then definitely ahead of Duke?
Oh, by far. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. That doesn't mean it's true, Steve, but I would.
I know.
Well, just offensively, their firepower is. I mean, he's an offensive guy, the Maryland head coach, and the firepower they have, the ability to explode like they could. I think that was a tough first game for us, especially defensive back wise, having to get that shored up. I think that was going to take a little bit of time because some of those, obviously Big Ten programs have a different level of speed, so. It's not that we may not be playing good technique. It just may be, hey, they have some guys that may be a little bit faster than our guys, and that was a tough first out for. But you're right, the stretch now coming up. I used to love the Barry Alvarez philosophy back in the late '90s. His when he was building in the mid '90s, when he was building a Wisconsin, he used to have 3 opponents his first 3 games when they were terrible. When he took over, terrible. They would go 3-0, and then I think they were end up 5-5, and then he would go 3-0, and then he'd end up 8-3, and then he was 3-0, and he ended up being in the Big Ten championship or winning the Big Ten championship, and kind of that's how we built the program. So I think that there's something to it. After last year being a difficult year, the year before being a better year. There's an opportunity for them now to have a stretch where they could build that confidence and hopefully lead into Wake Forest with an opportunity.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point to play a tough schedule early on anymore. You got to pad your wins. All that matters now is the conference. You got to win your conference. You got to get to the conference championship, and that gets you to the BCS bowl game.
Yeah, I would agree, except I think now in a 12-team college football playoff,
that's true.
You have a little more opportunity to slip up, because if you're the 3rd team in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're getting in before the 2nd team from a group of 5 league. That's just a fact of life. And I mean, as far as padding the schedule is concerned, I think the Maryland game was especially difficult because when you're trying to rebuild your entire program, I mean, they had 39 new guys come in, and they all came in the spring when there was no time to practice. So you basically, you had a short period of time to get your team ready. And I think that's a hard way to go. I wouldn't think in a perfect world Coach Mora would bring that many guys in again in the springtime and not get them any, not have them work out together in spring ball, because you could do all the the captain's practices you want, but that doesn't mean anything.
I didn't even
What,
think of that.
what was that thought? What was the thought process? Because we talked about that a little bit, but we really didn't. We don't know the inside as to what was the thought process of bringing in so many transfers. Was it that they lost quite a few guys? Is that
Well,
what
a lot
it
of
was?
guys went elsewhere. A lot of guys followed the money. The better guys, and this is going to be a problem now. The better guys followed the NIL money, and plus, last year wasn't successful, and the game has changed. It's so much like pro football in the fact that you can weed people out, not to the extent that phony Deion Sanders did,
Right.
but you can weed people out and bring people in. I just don't know if you ever want to bring that many people in again.
Do you know if I coached at Holy Cross? We were one of the few schools that started it, but we guaranteed all 4 years of the scholarship. Does UConn guarantee 4 years?
I don't know, Steve. I would think they might have to, but I don't know if they do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and in today's game, it doesn't even matter because half those guys are going to get through 2 years and leave for one reason or another. Not playing at all, playing a lot and being a superstar. And I guess that's one of the things that is difficult going forward. I think even if they have a lot of success, it's going to be difficult because of the fact that if they do have a lot of success, those players will have opportunities.
Right.
If you don't have a lot of success, the better players will have opportunities in the middle of the pack. Some of those kids might stay, even if you don't want them or not, and then you lose some kids for other reasons, right? But so you're kind of always, and that's always the tough thing without being in a conference. Guys may think that there's green grass outside of UConn if they have a great season, which is really I feel for more on that. It's a difficult process. I brought this up about a month ago. The Kent State coach I talked about. I don't even know how Kent State is doing or not, but he had talked about the fact that he was trying to welcome guys as if you're going to use this as like a jumping off point to build your career. That was okay with him, and I think that's a tough spot to be in because the nice thing about UConn is a great institution. It's academically, it's a great place to be. Obviously, I loved it when I was there. Steve loved it when he was there. There's a lot of things that UConn has. Obviously, outside of football, there's there's no better place than from a basketball standpoint in the whole entire country than UConn, and the other sports are really good as well. So there's a lot more staying power and a lot more campus culture than some of the other places that might be in tough situations with football, independent wise. That separates UConn. But like, what do you think some of the things that Mora has to continue to do to kind of build that culture to keep guys on? So even if he does have a ton of success this year, they don't jump out.
Well, I think he's got to show he can get guys drafted or get free agent tryouts in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think there's some guys who they're going to have to pay. I mean, the quarterback came here because they threw a boatload of money at him.
Yeah.
Kid, and when football is important, but let's be honest, boys, basketball will always rule the roost.
Correct.
I mean, that's never going to change. And I just think the one thing that Jim has to do is be honest with the kids and say, look, you come here for 2 years, for 3 years, whatever you want to do. I'll make you as good a football player as you want to be, but you have to work at it. I don't think you can slide playing for Mora. I don't think that's something that's going to happen, no matter what your ability is. So, and again, it's just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I will also say this. I think you have to play a pretty exciting brand of football, and I'm not sure if 3 yards in a cloud of dust does that.
Dave, I can't remember if you said this to me or somebody else did. Some of the MAC schools are recruiting, basically saying, "Come here if you're a star after 2 years and you want
That's
to."
what I just said about Kent State. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's what you meant.
There's a. I mean, listen. Toledo. A lot of the MAC schools. Toledo just upset Mississippi State, right?
Yeah.
And they paid them a bunch of money. And they came in and beat them. That philosophy may work for some of the MAC schools, especially as Toledo's been a pretty good MAC school to begin with. They kind of have a tradition of winning, so it may work for some of those schools. And I don't know what JMU's philosophy is, James Madison. But going into North Carolina and beating them, getting $500K to go beat them was a nice deal. They built a program there, and I think back to the days of when I played, it was like I don't know, Yank Conference in Atlantic 10. When you came in there, a lot of those teams that were Big East, you guys were Big East for football, but the old, which is now the CAA, the JMUs, the UMass, that original Yankee conference is now a lot of them are slowly moving up to Division I or exploring it, and those teams are having a level of success as they kind of are moving up. Delaware's going to be moving up in the process.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Delaware's now Division I. I don't know their exact timeline of how many they're getting each year, but Delaware is Division I.
The money's in football. They have to, man. The money is in football. I mean, if you're not exploring it, if you're not looking into it, I mean, $2.7 billion the NCAA is paying out currently to former athletes and current athletes based off of television contracts. I mean, the money is in football. I think that if you don't explore it, you're just wasting revenue that you could have.
Well, the other thing is 1AA or FCS, you'll never make money at that.
Never.
That is never a money-making proposition.
Correct.
If you have the infrastructure, if you have the resources, then why not take a look? But it's not just a matter of saying, oh, we're going to make football one division, FCS or FBS. If you add scholarships, you've got to add scholarships to women's sports. That adds money.
Title IX. Yeah.
That adds money. So, it's a very complicated scenario if you want to move in. Now, look, JMU had the infrastructure and they've done great. They've been a textbook in how they've approached it. But not everybody has the infrastructure like JMU. So we'll see. Delaware used to be, when you guys played, Delaware was the best team in the CAA or the Yankee Conference or whatever it was back then, right? But that doesn't necessarily transfer to success at the FBS level.
No, right, and I think that's what was made what JMU did really, really impressive. How they kind of slow staged it, right? They already had basketball, was like a decent program, but obviously not close to what UConn is. And I think that's the thing that's different. UConn basketball is so good, is so extremely good at the highest level. If you're not working towards that in football, people will look at it in the state of Connecticut as being a second tier thing. But I think you're 100% right. Like what does is it a UConn for football? Is it a money thing? Like, does UConn have to raise a lot more money in football to be able to? Because I know basketball, obviously, I remember last year the guy who transferred in from Rutgers, I think he got a good amount of money to come in there. On basketball, they have a certain level of infrastructure, obviously, for like Paige. Paige Beckers has her own thing beyond NIL. She's getting all her money, a lot of money from social media and stuff like that.
Right.
But they've developed a nice infrastructure, obviously because of success, for basketball to be able to get in the players they need. It's less players, obviously, which is the nice thing. You don't have to get that many guys. Does football need to raise capital on a really, really high level to get to a certain level of success?
I would think they need money nowadays to get players.
Mike Burton, yeah,
I
100%
think
said that.
I
Yeah.
think they need money to get players. It's not the old days where, as you said earlier, Dave, you can point to all the great things that UConn does. The football players coming in don't give a rat's ass about that. They don't care. Let's be honest, and I'm not calling out the kids.
No.
They don't give a crap about the academics because they
Right.
think they're going to be short timers here. What they want is a football program where they think they can have success and it helps them get either to a bigger school or eventually to the league. And I just think you have to have money. That's the most important thing. If you have money that you can put into your football program and designate, and UConn's got a couple of big NIL sponsors
Electives, yes.
who are doing great. My friend John Malfitone and Bleed Blue and
Yeah.
Mark D'Amelio and
D'Amelio,
Storrs. Yeah, so it's there, but it's got to be even more. And look, I think, I'll be honest with you, it would be great if UConn got ever in the Big 12. I think more realistic for them and a better fit would be in an ACC that combines a lot of the current ACC schools, maybe a couple of others, because people never think of this, but let's say UConn's in the Big 12, right? You want to fly your athlete, you want to fly your Olympic sport athletes out to Ames, Iowa, and Norman, Oklahoma, for a 2-game midweek series in field hockey or volleyball or men's soccer. No,
it's a logistical nightmare.
Oh my God, it's
logistical nightmare.
Well, look at Stanford and Cal are already like we want something else. They're ready. They just started in the ACC and they're ready to get out already.
Because you know what? It's like when West Virginia went into the Big 12, and the first year, about 2/3 of the way through their basketball program, you heard, "Geez, we didn't know there was this much travel." Did you look at a freaking map? Did you understand where you were going? If these schools are bitching about that, too bad. You knew what you were getting into.
Yeah. You wanted the money. Yeah, you're 100%
You
right.
knew what you were getting into. So I don't, I feel no sympathy for a school that goes into a league and then decides, the travel's too hard.
No, it's great.
Well, you know what? Then go back and resurrect the Pac-12.
That's right. That's right.
They're trying to.
They are trying to. That's where I heard Stanford and Cal say, "Oh, maybe we should."
No, they
left.
Did.
It's like
so complicated if they did.
It's craziness. So it's interesting. We talked about the money and obviously they brought in quarterback Evers. He's one of the guys that got a level of NIL money.
Yes.
I would think those two receivers,
Skylar Bell.
I think Bell probably did too.
Yeah. He's on. I think he was on D'Amelio's NIL list. I saw, and maybe Evers was. Evers was
Bleeding Blue.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's an interesting thing too. It's like I don't know how all the universities do it, but it's interesting when you have multiple groups. Like, how does that? I'm confused how that gets coordinated, right? Because if I'm going to give here for this guy, or this group's going to give here, because is there coordination among? And I don't know if you know this answer, but is there coordination among it?
I think there has to be. And look, I'll be honest with you, and I've said this since this started. I'm all for the athletes getting paid.
Yep.
Even though you guys would have made like $1.95. I'm all for the athletes getting paid.
That is not true, Joe. I would have made much more than $1.95 with my personality. Just
$2.95, maybe $3.
At least that would have got me to nickel night. That would have been good.
Exactly. But here's the thing. My thought is, at some point, somebody's going to screw this whole thing up and ruin it for everybody. Not at UConn. I'm not saying UConn.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to step over the bounds and screw things up, and it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. And how you step back from this after you've been giving these kids money is no shot in hell.
Dave, I believe you
there's
said
no
that.
way you could go back. I mean, and it's one of the things too. Like I heard it one of the shows I heard it, they're talking about like offensive line play, and obviously in the old days, offensive linemen obviously have to always work together, and usually, Steve, you know this, 3-4 years you're playing together, right? So you know what each guy can do, what he can't do. You're working together as a unit. Defensive linemen have always been like mercenary type players to begin with because they're looking for one-on-one matchups to beat guys. Like that's just how the positions are. But offensive linemen have to work in sync. And one of the hard things has been in the kind of NIL era is establishing a really good offensive line because of
Cohesive, yeah.
They're going from place to place, right? So you're taking one offensive lineman, now he comes over here, and now he goes over there, and being able to establish that. It's interesting. I think you brought up the brand of football, and I think that's a really interesting point because me and Steve have debated this. And Steve is on the, Steve's in the camp from his Edsel errors where they want to turn around and hand, like you said, they want to hand it to Todman, to who was the guy
Andre
from Red
Dixon,
Catholic from down here that was really
Donald
good.
Brown,
Donald Brown, and
I am of the Randy
yes.
Edsel model of success.
I agree more with Joe on that, like
field position.
You got to be able to run the ball, but you need that dynamic quarterback that can make a big difference and that you could run anything with, right? Any type of offense with, and you can have a large level of success. And you don't have to really run a whole lot of, you can look to when Mike Leach was at Mississippi State and at Washington State, win a ton of games, run a system where the run plays were called by the quarterback, not by him, right? So you could do a lot of things, and you could do it in a cold weather state, contrary to what Steve believes, because he did it in Washington State.
Well, but Steve, who's the greatest quarterback in UConn history?
Orlovsky.
Yeah. Who did he play for?
Played for UConn. He played for me.
Coach?
Yeah. He played for Randy Edsel.
Okay. There you go. No more questions, your witness. One of the reasons.
No, D just put me in my place in 2 seconds.
One of the reasons UConn
2 seconds
got off to a good start in Division I. There were a couple reasons. Number one, because of the success of the basketball programs and the fact that there wasn't a $51 million budget deficit, UConn didn't have to take big guarantee games to go get the crap kicked out of them.
Right.
Every week.
Yeah.
They would take one a year just for the experience, but they didn't have to do that. Some of these schools like UMass and those people, they go and get the tar beat out of them because they needed to pay for their athletic programs. Number two, Rentschler came about at the right time, and people found out it was a good experience. And number three, thanks to Randy and Dan, they played an exciting brand of football. Yeah, they ran the ball great, but they also had a great passing game, and people love that. And especially at the start, when you were trying to establish yourself as a division, as an FBS program, you needed to entice the fans. And that was the perfect formula for success.
I totally agree with them. And I after the Iowa State game, my senior year, I personally went up to Dan Orlovsky and Terry Cully and thanked them because we would never have had that level of success without them.
People forget,
Steve, the game.
People forget how important that Iowa State game was.
They do, yeah.
For establishing the culture. And then the next week, the week before that, beat Navy. And then
we shut them out.
Yeah. Remember that in the rain? In Annapolis? What a mess that was. Yes. But then going to Iowa State the next week and beating them, and they were a legitimate,
they beat Florida State that year.
And that set the stage for the next year.
Correct.
For 93 when they went 9-3 and frankly should have gone to a bowl game even though they didn't have a conference affiliation.
100%. That win at Iowa State was a launching pad for everything that happened after that.
And long pass to Jason Williams, I can remember that like it was yesterday.
It's amazing. Him and Baylock got the memories of everything. Yeah, and Terry Cully had the big run,
crazy run,
fourth quarter. Yeah, I remember that. I almost blew that block, but thankfully I didn't. And that was a huge win, and that was just like a storybook ending to such a career of ups and downs to go out that way. That Iowa State game was pivotal, especially against Seneca Wallace and the team that they had.
Oh, they were good.
Yeah, I
They were good.
I did not believe that. I didn't believe we had I didn't think we were going to win. I did
Oh,
not think
you've
we were
little
gonna win that one.
faith.
I know we were on a roll. We were on a roll at that time. I think that team, had we even at 6-6 had gone to a bowl game, I think we were firing on all cylinders. But they obviously capitalized in 03 and 04 after that, and then 2010 was the climax when they went to the Fiesta Bowl with Zach Frazier. But
There was a coach, and you can guess who he was after who came to UConn after that, after the Fiesta Bowl, who said UConn going to the Fiesta Bowl was the worst thing to happen in college football.
I don't think there were. I think there were more than one coach that said that. But you're
Only one coach at UConn.
Oh, there's a coach at UConn.
Oh, UConn.
One football coach at UConn.
I okay.
Now I want to know who it is.
It was Bob Diaco.
I figured you were going to say that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, it was because it raised expectations that were unrealistic. And I know that.
Oh, I totally disagree with him.
I disagree with that too.
I totally distree with him.
Yeah.
How was it bad for college football?
It was great for college. It was great for college football.
I said unrealistic expectations.
Diaco was bad for UConn.
I didn't think UConn was going to follow that up in 2011 with some 9-win season. I mean, they
no, but they were competitive.
They were
the first 2 years under.
Yeah, they were. They were.
They were.
They were.
Randy, the one thing he did very well, he never had the best recruiting classes. He redshirted and he developed players, and that was I think that was the main reason he had success.
Right.
He was very good at developing players.
I agree. And he had good. The other thing that he did really well was he surrounded himself with a great staff.
He did. He did. We always had a great staff, and he kept his staff together. God bless him. There's coaching changes every year. The staff that was there when I was there, the majority of them were there through the Fiesta Bowl. Todd Orlando, Hank Hughes. I think Norris was the only one that left. I think Linden was there. I'm pretty sure the majority of the staff was still
Vinny Marino.
Yeah, Vinny was there, and Vinny's the head coach right now.
He's doing great at Nichols.
Shout out to him. Yeah, he got his win. I'm very happy for him.
I love Vinny. Vinny's such a good guy.
He's the best. He's the best. But the only reason I said offensively, it worries me with the passing game, throwing the ball in late October, in November, because of the conditions at Rentschler Field.
Didn't seem to hurt the Patriots.
That's true. He's got me there. You're right. It didn't hurt the Patriots. You're right.
Steve, I understand what you're saying, but not everything's got to be 40 yards downfield.
No, you're right.
You can run 10, 15-yard patterns. You can run screen passes. You can run naked boots. I mean, there's ways to pass the ball in crappy weather.
Yes. And I think you're right. They're obviously limiting Evers for a reason with his passing game. They're not they call a lot of RPO stuff to give him the option to run, because I do think you're right. They think he's a great athlete. I get nervous because he just got out of concussion protocol.
Right.
I didn't like seeing him running draws and taking off like that. But if the other guy's a better passer, he can run as well. Joe Fignano, is that how you say his name? Fignano.
Right.
And he's a fifth-year guy. Can you tell me why he was named comeback player of the year? I didn't know why.
I had no idea.
Okay, that's what we got off the news site. He was comeback player of the year. If he can get it done, fine. I just worry about them being able to throw the ball in that weather. If we played down south, I wouldn't care. If we can execute when it gets cold and windy at Rentschler Field and have a successful passing game, and you're right.
Well,
it doesn't have to be downfield.
The good news is the way the schedule is constructed. You
Yes.
won't be there in November.
You're right. You're right. All the last 3 games are away. You're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't even look at that. You're right.
The schedule construction is actually unbelievable what they put together. How they put it together, it's unbelievable. And I know these were set like a few years in advance, right? So
Yeah, not really.
No, okay,
Not really. No.
okay,
With Independence, yeah, because they
because they do it
sign
more
home and
recently
home
because independent.
seasons,
Okay,
but
yeah,
usually it's year to year because they're trying to find games. They got to try to fill out the schedule.
well,
I know that for
I
sure.
look at the schedule. It's like, okay, you got Buffalo, then Temple. Those
Buffalo's
are
3-1. I mean, Buffalo's not
Buffalo's.
bad.
Yeah, they're not bad. Buffalo, I just can't get it out of my head. You can't lose to Buffalo.
I never love Buffalo. Yeah, I love
Yeah, no. Temple obviously is not very good. Then you got Wake. Then you got Rice, who's not very good.
They beat
Georgia
Rice
State,
last year. Yep.
Georgia State's okay. UAB not very good. And then you got Syracuse and UMass. I mean,
And I'll get to go to the Syracuse game. Syracuse is an example. I mean, they have done much better with their new head coach and turning things around. But offensively, let me ask you this, Joe. Defensively, they play the 3-3-5. I am not a huge fan of the 3-3-5. And I'm wondering if you believe it's personnel related because they don't think they have 4 good down linemen, or it's just schematically what the defensive coordinator, that's what he runs.
I think it's a little of both.
Okay.
I think you're always the D coordinator's always going to have a scheme that he thinks is good. But with a different defensive coordinator last year, I think they also ran a 3-3-5.
Oh, they did. They did run 3.
That might be a little influence from Coach Mora as
well.
Oh,
okay.
Know,
because
I mean, the final decisions are always his.
Yes.
So
yes, the head coach for sure.
That's
I
interesting.
agree. I agree.
I'm curious as they continue to go. I mean, I think with the schedule, they should the 3-3-5 should really be able to hold up with the guys that they have.
They got 3 good inside guys.
With this schedule. So explain this to me, Joe. We I don't know. Let's say we drop 2 of these and we end up winning the rest of them. Okay, or drop even 3. I mean, so we'd be like at a 7-4, kind of 8-3 area. The bowl games, the way the bowls work, right? Would we be a lot? I mean, obviously we have a winning record. You have an opportunity to be in a bowl game. Would we be in a good position to be in a bowl game, or would we be as an independent where we could get squeezed out even with a really good record?
Sweating bullets.
Okay.
You'd be sweating bullets.
Yeah, it depends how many bowl teams are eligible. Because I remember last year, yes, Minnesota went to a bowl game last year 5-7 because they base it off of your academics. If you're not bowl eligible and they need a team, the team with the best academics gets to go to the bowl game. And Minnesota ended up winning that bowl game that they went to. I remember I watched it. I couldn't believe it. But I like what I see from their running backs. I like Edwards. I like Robinson. I can't remember if Robinson's a true freshman or not. But I'd like to see a little bit more out of the passing game. I'd like to see a lot of more, some unders. Like you said, Dave, you like mesh. I love mesh. Run the mesh concept. Run the nakeds. Run the boots. I love their tight end. Their tight end is a big German, and I love those Germans because that's where I played. I love the big Germans, and he's the guy they use as the sniffer when they run some of their gap schemes. But that I 100% agree with that. I just don't like that they're in the gun all the time. I just go under center, please.
Yeah.
please go under center. I didn't get to be out of the gun. They didn't put me in. They didn't let me play. They didn't put Dan in the gun all the time. I would have loved it if Dan was in the gun. It would give me a half a second, to pass protect. I told Dan 3 seconds. That's all you got. I'll get in his way for 3 seconds. I'll tell him a story, whatever I got to do. You got 3 seconds, buddy.
And most of the time, he got it off.
There's no doubt about it. And now he's living large at ESPN, so he's doing all right.
Yes, 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 he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he
He's
is.
doing all right. Before we let you go, and it's been just awesome having you on. What do you think is the future for UConn football? What do you
Yeah.
think, like looking beyond this year, where UConn football needs to be? And the reason I say Hurley has his first practice, and boy, I saw video everywhere on that, right? And him yelling, him getting mad, and all these different things. Where does UConn football continue to go to really, like, from a media standpoint and from a program standpoint?
Well, I think from a media standpoint, it's not like it was when Steve was playing, where like 6 or 7 newspapers would go on the road with you,
Yeah.
and, and the biggest radio station in the state, the most powerful, did the games. I mean, they have a good radio outlet now, and they have a couple of stations. But you only get 2 writers go on the road, and sometimes not even 2. So that's changed, but they get good coverage. I think from a program standpoint, the goal is to get into a Power 4 conference. I mean, that's got to be the goal, because if you're not, you can't. I don't think you can stay independent forever.
No,
Okay.
that's what I said. In 2030, if this is the situation, I don't think it's going to last. I don't think they'll be able to manage it.
I think people will lose interest. I think you got to get into look, David and his staff, they're working all the time on this.
Oh, they are. I know they are.
People have to understand that. But I think within 5 years, 3 years, you got to be in a conference. Now, if you get in the MAC, people aren't going to give a crap.
Please don't put us in the MAC.
Right.
If you get in the Mountain West or the Sun Belt or any of those leagues, people aren't going to care. You got to get in the ACC or the Big 12. You're not going to get in the Big 10. You sure as hell aren't getting in the SEC. I think a reconfigured ACC would be a perfect spot for UConn.
The ACC is pretty much the old Big East anyway.
Yeah, well, that's a little.
Pitt, Syracuse. I mean, it's
4 teams: Pitt, Syracuse,
Virginia
BC,
Tech,
and Miami.
Virginia Tech.
Does basketball subscribe to that, or are they happy with being in the Big East and would be reluctant? I mean, I guess the ACC, they probably wouldn't be reluctant, but
No,
Big 12,
and the Big 12's a real good basketball league too.
right.
I think they'll go play. Dan and Gino will go play anybody at any time.
Yeah,
that's not an issue for them. So, but for football, for the sake of the program, I hope they get in the conference in the next 2-3 years.
I want to ask my last question. Joe, what do you think? Football is going to be mandated to go to 105 scholarships. I think that starts next year. Is that going to be possible? Do you think they'll put
a lot of money?
That's what I'm saying. Do you think they'll put 105 on scholarships?
If you're already paying kids NIL money,
yeah,
and then you got to pay other kids now, does it have to be a full ride?
No, they can split them up. They can split them up.
Yeah, so that's you could give like 22 starters a full ride, and then your backups get a half ride. So it's not it's not as much. If that's what's going on, then it's not as big a potential problem financially as it could be. If you had to give everybody full boat, then you'd be in big trouble.
Yeah. No, they increased all the roster limits, and I will quiz you. Do you know which sport got the highest increase in scholarships?
I would say no, I don't.
Tumbling.
Well, you don't have to worry about that at UConn.
It went from 11 to 60. I didn't even know what tumbling was.
I didn't even know anyone had tumbling.
You don't
Is
have
that
to
gymnastics? Is that gymnastics or
No, it's not gymnastics. I saw that and I couldn't believe it.
Well, that's interesting enough. I had no idea. I would have thought it was like Yeah, I would have thought it'd be like track and field or some other sport like that, but no.
Track went up a lot too.
I
Track
did,
went
yeah.
up a lot
I
too.
figured because you could split up and you could do all kinds of things there. But yeah, it's been great having you on, Joe. Man, I miss listening to that voice, because I live down in New Jersey, and that voice, man. I mean, to me, it's the voice of UConn.
Well, even if you lived in Connecticut, you wouldn't be hearing it. So
I told him he's the icon. I told him he's
even
the
if you
icon.
lived in Connecticut, unless it's Olympic sports on UConn Plus, which has been great. Yeah, football is. This is 7 years now.
I
that
know.
haven't done
I know.
football. It
I know.
seems
I know.
strange.
Do you miss doing it?
Oh,
I miss parts of it. I miss being around the players because we always had a good relationship with the players and coaches because we traveled with them. I miss being around Wayne, doing the games with him, and around the other writers and stuff. And
Yeah.
the one thing for football was because we chartered, the travel wasn't miserable. When we had to fly on our own, sometimes for basketball, I've traveled for 26 years. I don't need to, travel much anymore.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I miss it. The game day, and I probably miss the preparation as much as anything. Getting ready for the game, diving into the stats and looking for storylines, and
yeah, you had good insight.
I probably miss that as much as anything.
Yeah, he always had good insight and analysis, and he was the only one who would interview me. So
Offensive linemen were always the line guys were always the best to interview. Brian Gleason, Lunn, offensive linemen were always the best. Mo Petrus.
Yep, you can't fake personality.
Nope.
I just thought offensive linemen were supposed to be bright guys. Maybe that's what it was.
Oh no!
Oh no! Okay.
Don't let that.
No,
I don't know where you got that perception from.
Oh man, Joe, it's been great having you on.
All right,
We'll definitely talk soon.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great day.
You too.
That was great insight. Great insight.
He's the man. He's the man.
He is.
It's a shame. It's a shame he's not doing the games. I feel. Oh, yeah. He's the voice of UConn. I mean,
he was the voice of UConn, and it's.
I didn't know it's been 7 years. That's crazy.
I didn't know it had been that long.
No, yeah. I knew. I thought it was like 4 years. I know it was like 7 years. But yeah, I thought that I thought he still had his ESPN show. I know he's got his own show.
He was on ESPN for a while. I remember.
Yeah, I used to see him all the time. But that's the thing. I mean, it's like with coaching. It's like with anything else now. It's ageism. They all want the young guys, and it's crazy. It's crazy how it works. But there's nobody with more insight, analysis. The guy who would be at practice, the guy who would do the preparation, the guy who would do the interviews and knew what he was talking about and could explain it to the layperson. I didn't get a chance to tell him, but every game, my father in the stands would have the headsets on, listening to the radio game and watching it. He would listen to his radio broadcast while he was watching the game because he loved listening to Joe.
He was great. I remember Zeke Rogers' dad used to have that, like I said, used to have the headphones on, listening to the game. My father, he'd be like, "Oh, Dave just caught a pass." My father's like, "I'm watching it."
Same thing. My dad did the same thing. He did the exact same thing because I mean, he was by far the best. But I'm glad that he. I hope that they expand on Evers' repertoire, and he was 9 of 14, which was great. I just hope that they give him some more opportunities to throw the ball. It was good to see TJ Sheffield, the transfer. I think was the Purdue transfer, or no, the Wisconsin transfer. He's one of those. He had some catches, which was good to see. And I love that, they had 3 running backs. I think it was 3 that were over 100 yards, which was what we needed.
Yeah. Well, the 2 running backs went for over 100.
Yeah,
and the
Mel
other one-
Brown,
and the
Burrell,
other one
right.
went for 78.
Yep. Well,
And
Nick Evers went for 78.
I mean,
Wow.
that's right. Nick Evers went for 78. You're right.
Mel
Nick Evers
Brown. Well, yeah, it was Mel Brown went for 156. Darrell Robinson went for 156. And then Cam Edwards had 7 carries for 30 yards. Wow. So yeah, they must have known that they were going to handle South Florida pretty handedly. But Buffalo's a different story. Buffalo, they beat up. Well, they beat up on Lafayette. They lost to Missouri. They beat up on UMass, and they beat Northern Illinois, who beat Notre Dame. So who knows? It's a 12 o'clock start on. See, this is why I couldn't watch it. I was trying to watch the game this past week, and it's on. So that's why they have a deal with CBS. It's on the CBS Sports Network, so it's not on ESPN Plus. Okay. I was just trying to see. Okay. Oh no, that's. I'm sorry. I was looking at Buffalo, but yeah, they were. I know they were on CBS. Yeah, they are on the CBS Sports Network. I didn't even know CBS had a sports network. So that's.
you didn't?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that. But the only other thing that concerns me defensively is we did not have any sacks. I would like to see defensively, especially. I mean, I think you would call yourself more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy, right?
Coaching wise or life wise? Ha!
I would say coaching wise.
I know defense inside and out.
Yeah.
I would say that I enjoy the strategy of offense, and
Right.
that makes sense. So
no, I understand. But that's what concerns me. If you're running the 3-3-5 and you're not getting sacks, that is what worries me, because you have to be able to, like we talked about, disguise your blitzes, and you have to be able to get home to the quarterback, because you're going to be, the majority of the times you're going to be sending 5 guys. So somebody's got to win one-on-one and get to the quarterback. And you're limited coverage wise what you can play when you do that. You're either playing 3 under 3 deep, or you're playing 4 under 2 deep. I mean, that's what's scary. So that's what I worry about. And I don't know. I just wanted to see Buffalo statistics, what they kind of do. So they have a quarterback. Yeah, he's got 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's only completing 53% of his passes. He's not great. They're another running team. They have 3 running backs over 100 yards. They have 1 running back that's close to 200 yards. So it's a style of 2 teams that are very, very similar. I don't know what they do defensively, but offensively, defensively, I mean, they've got 7 sacks on the year, which isn't terrible. 7 sacks in 4 games, I guess, but that's it's going to be interesting to see. Buffalo is improved. We're improved, but like 1, 2, you're right. I mean, the 6-game home stretch is pivotal. We took care of Florida Atlantic. We have to take care of Buffalo. We have to take care of Temple. Wake Forest is going to be a toss-up. And then, Rice and Georgia State, we got to take care of. If we can do that, I think that winning 8 games is a reality. And if we go 8-4, and have the basketball season, men's and women's, that we're supposed to have, maybe the ACC will come calling. And I do agree with Joe. I think that is the better fit. I would not want to go to the Big 12. I just logistically, I think it's a nightmare. I think it's one of the, well, that's not true. It's probably SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and then the ACC. But what happens if Clemson and Florida State win their lawsuit and they leave the ACC? I mean, at least
that would give UConn an opportunity, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That could open up an opportunity for us to join the ACC.
I think it would. I think it would open up a great opportunity for us to join ACC. I mean, for us, I think we'd root for that to almost happen, but the ACC wouldn't want that. But there's no doubt that would be a great opportunity.
But they're not paying these schools. I mean, they're losing so much revenue by staying in the ACC when they could go to the SEC. And Joe's right. Like, they're going to beat each other up. So you're going to see the second and third teams in the SEC and the Big Ten go to the playoffs because the strength of schedule is so high.
UConn is the favorite in this game against Buffalo.
Oh, good. We were favored against Florida Atlantic too. Does it say
4.5 and over under is 46?
Wow, 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, I took UConn to win, but I did take the under. I'm surprised they're favored that highly, but I think
UConn is in the position that if they can win 8 games, which is very possible.
Very possible. Yes.
They'd be hard to deny a bowl game. 7 may be difficult. 7 and 4 with our schedule. It could be easy for these bowl people to say,
I think they'll go because Dave, there's teams
so many bowls
that are bowl eligible that decline to go to bowls.
Right.
They turn down. Like, it blows my mind. Like, it's not the same as it used to be. It's not prestigious unless you're going to, the New Year's Day Bowl or the playoffs. And, the team that's going to the humanitarian bowl isn't jumping for joy. And,
right.
And it ends up costing the school money to send them to it. That's the other thing. Financially, for them to go to a bowl, a lot of the times, we don't typically travel well, and they lose money on it. So I just, regardless, if they win 8 games, if they do what needs to be done in basketball, there's no reason, like Joe said, in the next 5 years, they got to be in a conference. They got to be in a conference. Rentschler Field, I think I was talking to Coach Edsel, because they at Stanford, he was here. They played and beat Syracuse, and he was with his son after the game. I was just messaging him, just saying congratulations, and he just meant Rentschler was close to being expanded to 60,000 people, because it has that capability to be expanded, and they were right there ready to do it, and they didn't. And then the wheels fell off. But it was, I mean, if you look at this, I mean, everything was good to see. We started fast. We held on to the lead, and we dominated. We scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. We went into halftime 17-0. So I think we did what we had to do, and you're supposed to beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. If we beat those teams that we're supposed to beat,
you can't complain about that. Yeah.
So, I mean, that part, look, I think it was really positive. I'm sure it's they're not as good as FAU that they had hoped, but
Yeah.
a win's a win. That's all that matters. Bill's confidence. Keep moving on.
How did your team do?
My son's team?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we won. We won.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we were up 26-0. Then you got to go to like a mercy rule thing or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. You score 4 touchdowns. It's like a mercy, some sort of.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So
Or
they score
they do a running clock or something?
running clock. Yeah, but we won 26-14. But it was already after we had to pull all our guys off. So
How's your kid liking it? Because
likes it. I mean, sometimes I'm tough. I'm tough. A little bit tough sometimes, but
you got to be. That's the right way to do it. He's
good. He threw 2 touchdown passes yesterday. He had an interception.
He threw
good.
2 touchdown
He's
passes?
good. He's a good athlete. Good athlete.
Is I can't remember. Is he 8 or 9?
9.
Yeah, he's 9. That's awesome, man. Good for him.
I mean, he's completed, I think, 20 of 26 or 27 passes this year. Yeah, so like 20 or 20.
And you call the defense, right? You
No,
don't call.
I'm the head coach, but I call.
I know you're the head coach. I didn't know if you called the offense. Okay, that's good, man. Good for him.
Well,
Do you think
he's learning? He's learning.
Do you think he loves football?
Loves football. Loves
Good.
football.
Good.
Loves football. It's funny because he loves Colorado. He loves Deion Sanders.
Hey, man, give him credit.
It's love him. I know.
For what they did at Colorado State.
Well, that was a great game. No, Colorado State. Did you see the game against Baylor?
Or Baylor, the one they threw the Hail Mary. Yeah, that's what I saw.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I was blown away. And then Shador said that's what legends do, and I'm legendary. I love his quotes.
They do not lack the boldness of saying what
yeah,
they want to say.
He's not insecure.
No.
I forgot tonight. Are you good for the show tonight? I didn't.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Tonight's the night you don't practice. Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's end this one.
We'll talk about that. Okay.
Production values.
Go ahead. Do the production.
I'll hit you with a little production value.
Do I get to say the line?
I'll hit you with a couple.